The Touchdown City Show is presented by Masters Law Firm, West Virginia's personal injury lawyers. Coming to you from the Stone Church Studio in St. Albans, West Virginia, this is the Touchdown City Show.
Thanks for taking the time to download this week's episode of the Touchdown City Show presented by the Masters Law Firm. I'm Anthony Lewis in the Stone Church Studio today with Matt Durrett, Derek Bailey, as Avon Coburn is on assignment, trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with the West Virginia offense. As West Virginia takes a beating in Kansas, and we're going to briefly go through this later in the show. Coach Rich Rodriguez jumps on with us. It's an interview that I'd recorded a few weeks back, but as we continue to celebrate the 05 Sugar Bowl 20th anniversary on the radio show, we went so long with Rich, I thought I would share the interview with you guys. And this is a good week to do it because there's just not a lot to talk about when it comes to West Virginia, Kansas. Before we get into the game, I definitely want to take an opportunity to say thank you to everybody that came out for Guys Night Out, formerly Guys Night Out, what is now Mountaineers Night Out. It was a fundraiser for the West Virginia Kids Cancer Crusaders. There looked to be, I don't know, maybe 400 to 450 people.
It's a good crowd.
It was packed.
That's a good crowd for the because the carpet's not very big. I mean, they got that addition out back.
That's where we were.
Yeah.
But generally, at the previous events, when it was labeled Guys Night Out, I think, of course, opening it up to the ladies since it's now a combined thing. Anyway, with all that stuff that went on with that, but great event. I had a really good time. I'm exhausted. I worked like.
Unfortunately, the game didn't turn out, but who cares as long as the event was good?
Yeah, you know what?
You know what? That's just part of it. It doesn't matter. The game is just part of the event.
No, honestly, so we made the event the part of it. The game was just
there,
a small fraction of it. I mean, Woody Woods was playing music for 2 hours. We were giving stuff away. I mean, but every commercial break, we were giving stuff away or raffling something or auctioning something. It was more of an event than it was showing up to watch football. So shout out to the people that came out in the committee.
Well, I mean, if it had been an event to watch football, that they turned into a social event pretty quickly, didn't it?
Well, let me put it to you this way. One of the beer trucks, right, they had like 6 or 8 taps.
They had to have run out.
They ran out of beer. Went and got more kegs, and now, granted, I had 2 beers, and I don't even drink beer that much anymore. I was like, I'll have a beer and sit down and relax for a second. And when I went back to get the third one,
gone again.
They had ran out again.
It's hard to watch that game.
So once the special teams debacle at the top of the third happened, everyone just turned to drinking. So, who can blame them? But let's talk a little bit about that. The West Virginia special teams. Where they've been pretty solid throughout the course of this season, were awful. 43-yard kick return, a 30-yard punt return. 2 of them, both of those plays set up touchdowns for Kansas.
They also ran a kickoff back.
Well, I haven't got to that. I'm just talking about
yeah, my bad.
I'm just talking about the returns.
It was a brutal performance out of this. Listen, it was just an all-around. That was a debacle. There was nothing last night. Over the weekend, whatever you want to call it, it was ugly from the start. It was just an ugly performance. But the thing that got me was the timing of the first kickoff return. West Virginia had played poorly, but they just get the game to 10-3. And there's just a couple minutes left in the first half. And you're like, okay, it's 10-3. One-score game.
Still in it.
Your one-score game. And then, bang. 50-yard kickoff return or whatever it was, and it's like, oh, great. And then
they got right down.
Three plays later, it's 17-3, and it's like, oh, gosh. There's huge spots for the special teams, and they just did not perform.
Yeah, then, of course, you open up the second half, you're already down, you're kicking the ball back off, and the first thing is you're like, well, I remember sitting there looking, and I was like, well, if we can get a stop and go down and score, we're back in it. This will make. Honestly, I was just for the event, so people didn't lose interest.
Yeah, right.
But But then they just ran it back, and you just watch people like head to the bar.
I mean, if you can just kind of keep a game, because it felt like West Virginia was overwhelmed from the start, but if you can keep the game within a score or two, you say, okay, well, we're a big play away from just being right in the middle of it, or if you score, we're still down a score, you're a turnover away from being in the game. Like, if you can keep them within a score or two, but like once Kansas got that separation, it felt like the kickoff at the beginning of the second half to make it 27-3. It was just like, yeah, this is over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Like Peter McNeely.
Yeah, it was over. It was that was the knockout punch.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much good that happened yesterday. You know, you go into that game thinking our defense has been playing well. We can maybe get after him, rattle him a little bit. Unfortunately, one of our better defensive players gets kicked out for the targeting. You lose Fred Perry, so you're losing him from back there in the back at the safe zone. And it was just I don't know that you can call it anything other than a disaster yesterday all the way around. I don't think there was any bright spot in that game. It was a struggle from start to finish. You just kind of got to hope they can put it behind them and regroup and get ready for Utah coming in this week.
You know, I thought Jalen Daniels, you know, I've been talking about him for a few years. I like him. I've liked him. He's been hurt. And obviously, what he did to us in 22 in Morgantown. I mean, he shredded.
Was that the extra over?
I think he threw 5 touchdowns or something that day.
Yeah, they scored like 56 points against us.
He was only 12 of 24, 138 yards. We had 3 touchdowns. Not the best passer, but the thing about it is he did deliver 2 explosive plays of 42 and 39 yards. But where he killed you was with his feet and what he does moving the chains. You know, he had 5 carries for 69 yards. But when you watch their offense, you're so worried about what he's going to do that all the RPO stuff and the fakes, I mean, you got to be disciplined, because if he does hand it off on the reverses and things like that, they're going to gash you. But then what it does is it exposes you on the edge, on the perimeters when he rolls out. I mean, he's so good with his feet, and he's healthy. If he stays healthy, I mean, Kansas, I'm going to watch them over the next few weeks. But what I've seen from them so far, other than the defensive collapse against Missouri, Kansas could be a team that you see play in Dallas in December.
I want to say on the defense, I mean, I know that 41's a big number. It's a huge number. It's not a big number. It's a huge number for a defense to give up. Now, granted, 7 was off the kickoff return. The defense wasn't good. I'm not excusing the defense, but one thing I do think about the defense yesterday was they got worn out. They were out there a long, long time. And you're chasing a guy around like that's got the ability to beat you with your legs. Didn't look like the Mountaineer defensive line, and we don't have any speed. Unfortunately, the linebackers are just not very fast. There were coverage busts. There was things yesterday that I hadn't seen all year that was very disappointing. But having said that, I still feel like the defensive line especially, I don't feel like it's that bad. For some reason, even after the beatdown that they took, I don't think the defensive line is that bad. But the problem is it doesn't feel like the athleticism in the secondary and at the second level, at the linebacker level, the athleticism and speed, it just doesn't feel like it's there right now. And that leads to major, major problems still. But the defensive line, they never quit, I don't think. I don't feel like they quit. Especially, I don't feel like anybody quit on the team. Now, there was some guys you could see maybe loafing here and there, and I'm sure that'll be brought up in film study.
That'll be brought up tomorrow.
Oh yeah, they'll hear about it. But the defense. It was like I said, 41's a big number, but like they're still not quitting, and these guys are in position to make plays. Like he had them in some position to make some plays. Interception was dropped. You miss a fumble recovery again early in the game. I don't know if you remember the fumble recovery, and you still look up like we said. It's 10-3 with. 3-4 minutes left in the first half. It's 10-3. You're in the game as poor as you've played, and you're right there. But the offense just couldn't muster up anything to keep them off the field.
I think the defense played well enough at the beginning when it mattered to win the game.
You could have. I'll tell you what. It shouldn't have been 41-10 with the defense.
But when I say that, what I mean is the special teams collapse. You're giving them the ball at the 50. The return game and the punts were terrible, and the kicking game was terrible. And they were giving up short fields for the defense, and still you were in it. I mean, even though you gave up one late, that was because of a great return. You gave up one late. If you don't give that up, you're really still in it. I just feel like the defense definitely did enough to win the game early, but then when they started having to be on the field too long and the collapses with the special teams, that's when it went south for them. Although we did see Jamori Robinson finally on the field, number 0.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's in game shape, but he was out there.
That's one of those that you're gonna have to wonder, like you just said, how long is it going to take for him to get in game shape? How long is it going to take for him to get everything down and kind of find his place, right? But you hope that as the games go on and now that he's eligible, he turns into a force on the defensive side of the ball for us.
The quarterback play for West Virginia, obviously not great, but I want to look at the offensive line. There were some blatant just missed blocks, guys coming free. I mean, totally free, not chipped, not blocked, not even looked at sometimes. And I know everyone looks at the quarterback play and the quarterback. When Nico has time or they roll him out to do things, he completes passes. He's been having some trouble throwing the ball a little bit, but when he has time, I feel like they can move the ball. I just don't feel like that offensive line, that performance yesterday from the offensive line was atrocious. They were coming free on some plays, and just especially when we got down in the red zone and was trying to get a touchdown. I think on that third down, I don't even think that tackle was blocked.
Yeah, I mean,
we had to settle for 3.
It's hard for him because he's not, as we've said before, he's not a very mobile quarterback. So for him to be able to do what he needs to do, he needs to have more than, a second and a half back there to look and get his reads and everything. And I don't know. I know that Rich's offense is predicated most of the time on a guy who can move. But, I mean, is this the point this year where maybe we have to set it up and adjust to what Nico's strengths are?
I mean, and I think they're doing that to a point. I mean, he's a passer. Some of the rollout stuff tends to work. But again, even if you're rolling away and no one blocks someone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know it feels like, I know after a game like that, it's easy to just throw the towel, and it feels like West Virginia's so far on and everything. And I know Nico, he's not a running quarterback. However, I do feel like, and this may be crazy, but when I see it on TV, it looks like if there were, and I know it's not Nico, I'm not trying to say that this is what we should do. He has running lanes. He's just not fast enough to get to them. And that's not his fault. That's not his style of play. If there were a quarterback that West Virginia had that could throw the ball well enough and that was mobile, you can see that there are plays to be made. So you wonder how they're going to address that moving forward, because it does look like there are plays to be made with their feet. It's just he's just not quick enough to get to that hole and make the burst, which is fine. That's not his game. His game is throwing the ball, and that's where you have to move the offense. And they're trying to move the offense around to like being more of a throwing offense, which is fine. But there are plays I think that can be made with his feet. And then the other impact is you really miss. It's not an excuse. It's a fact. You miss Jaheim White. You don't have, and without Edwards, you don't have Edwards.
Too.
You don't have either one of them, and it takes away a lot of what you want to do. I mean, there's still a long way to go and a lot of work to do. The key is moving forward for me is I don't really know what the expectation is for this season, but what I want to see, just get better.
Yeah.
Just improve.
Well, the Ty Edwards situation yesterday really threw him for a curveball because Rich, according to what I heard in his press conference, seemed to think he was going to go. Because he said he made the trip. If you're not going to go, they won't take you. They'll leave you at home.
Yeah, he was probable.
And he couldn't go, so that kind of throws your game plan off a little bit. The rushing game, outside of Jaheim White and Ty Edwards, the rushing game is terrible. Bowers and Ash gave you 18 yards total.
And you'll look at it with the 79 yards from the quarterback, but he had one run. I mean, he had one run.
Jalen Henderson had 79 yards. I'm talking about from the running backs.
I still can't figure out why Ash is out there. He's not fast. He doesn't have an extra gear. He's slow to hit the hole. Like, what are we?
But here's the thing with like
he's more of a power runner.
But who are you going to put in? At some point, I mean, like you got to think you already have your two best backs are out. Then you only have, at some point, you only have 4 or 5 guys. You got to play somebody. And, I mean, he's not, in his defense, he's thrown in as a guy that's not going to be used very much with White and Edwards. He's probably going to be your third back at best. And now he's thrown in there to try to be a starter.
False. Against Ohio, he played.
But Edwards didn't.
When White went down,
but
he played
Edwards
pretty much the entire game.
But what I'm saying is Edwards wasn't available in that game either, though. So this is a guy
available.
This is a guy that's.
They didn't clear him for the Ohio.
They cleared him, but if they clear you on a Wednesday, he's not, and you don't practice, you're not playing.
He didn't play. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a guy that's probably going to be your third or fourth back that you're throwing in there to be a starter.
I agree. But the rushing game, when you don't have a running game in this offense and your quarterback is not a mobile type of guy, it's disastrous.
If you can't run, you can't pass. If you can't pass, you can't run. That's the way it goes pretty much.
And that's what we saw in Lawrence. It
was just ugly.
But here's the deal. I mean, you got a lot of guys hurt, and that's not an excuse. But at the same time, when you're trying to fight and scratch and claw to a bowl game, getting guys hurt is not going to help the cause. Yep. So, all right, we're going to take a break because it really wasn't a lot to talk about. I think everything we wanted to talk about for that game, we covered it there.
Yeah.
But I do have a great interview for you guys as we continue to look back at the 20th anniversary of the Big East Championship and upset win versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So coming up after the break, we'll have Coach Rich Rodriguez.
The Touchdown City Show will be back right after this.
Have you been injured at no fault of your own? The Masters Law Firm is on your side and here to help you in your time of need. With decades of experience, our team understands the toll that injuries take on victims and their families, offering both legal expertise and unwavering support. From car accidents to complex injury cases across West Virginia, we've got you covered. Visit our website at themasterslawfirm.com or call us today at 304-342-3106 for a free consultation. Your journey to recovery starts with us.
Hey Mountaineers, Alumni Hall is your ultimate West Virginia Mountaineers shopping destination. Upgrade your tailgate gear, shop officially licensed clothing for the family, or load up on hats, gifts, and accessories. Keep track of your purchases with our Hall Pass Rewards, where you get $10 in rewards for every $150 spent. And WVU students, faculty, and all military receive 10% off when shopping in-store. Shop at Alumni Hall in Morgantown or Charleston, or online at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Mountaineer fans shop.
Mountaineer Nation, throw your hands up. This is Grant Wiley. You're listening to the Touchdown City Show.
And welcome back to the Touchdown City Show. And as promised, joining us on the telephone, head coach Rich Rodriguez. Coach, how you been doing?
I'm good, Anthony. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us here. And, we've been very excited about the look back. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years since the 2005 season. And, first of all, it's kind of crazy to think this is your first season back at West Virginia, and we're celebrating 20 years in the Sugar Bowl win. How's that feel for you?
I wish it was 10 years, or something. Jesus, 20 years, been that long, but some of the members are still pretty fresh, but there's a lot happened in the last 20 years too as well. But it was the more that you talk about it, you do come reflect back and say, God, that was pretty neat. That was a lot of fun. So hopefully we can bring it back and have some of the same kind of success. But that was a special team for sure.
Well, let's talk about that. First of all, let's go back to 2004. Or coming into the 05 season, you lose Rasheed Marshall, who's a Big East Player of the Year, NFL draft pick, KJ Harris, Pac-Man Jones, Chris Henry. There were a lot of questions for you guys moving into the 05 season. What do you remember about spring ball and even camp coming into it, with having to replace so many moving parts that had been well established from like 02 to 04 in that run you went on there?
Yeah, you're right. I do remember that, man, we're losing some of the key guys, but I also remember we felt pretty good about our recruiting classes. And then we had kind of thought that it was, I don't really look too much into recruiting rankings, but we thought we had a lot better players than maybe the rankings or something would indicate, like we had some of these guys like Pat and some of those others, like these guys are really talented. They think we're going to be really special. It was just they're all young. And so we knew that year we're going to be a lot younger than the team before. And so we had to maybe simplify a few things scheme-wise, whatever. And as the season went along, we kind of found out what those guys did well and kind of featured that, and it worked out great.
It's interesting as you go back and look at it, and I've had time to kind of go back and watch the highlight films and read the programs and the box scores and things like that. I know you haven't had that type of time, but it is interesting that it was almost a tale of two seasons. Offensively, the first half of the season, you guys struggled a little bit in your defense, who was led by a group of seniors, a standout group of seniors. You're talking about, Ernest Hunter, Keelan Dykes, all those guys, Jamal Adai, Lorello. Your defense kind of led the way for you guys early in the season till your offense could find its footing.
Yeah, it was. And like you said, sometimes I don't, it's good that you bring that up because I can't remember that much of the team, but you're right. I do remember defensively, we had a little more experience coming back, and it was a third or fourth year in the system. And offensively, especially at quarterback, we're having new guys there, and it was going to take a little while for them to learn. And back then, you remember you couldn't really do much with them in the summer either, so you really get it going during camp. And I remember that, hey, we're going to be okay, but it may take us a little while to kind of find our footing. Obviously, Pat took a big step with that after the Louisville game, but you're right. The defense was solid as veteran, and they kind of kept us in some games early, and then we were able to win. And then offensively, kind of found our groove and got going a little bit. But the one thing I remember with that group, they were all really hungry. Like every really good team I've ever had always had a certain type of hunger to prove themselves. This team had that in spades. They were a bunch of guys that really hadn't played a lot, especially on offense, and so they were really hungry to prove themselves. And that helped us, I think, accelerate the process of getting those guys ready to win.
You mentioned Pat White and the coming of age, so to speak, in the Louisville game, but there's a huge misconception, when people look back at that, and if they try to criticize or whatever, and they try to mention or say that Pat White wasn't getting any playing time, that you were playing Adam Bednarik, but that's not true. I mean, they were splitting time. If you go back and read the box scores, what was it that kind of led you to think that you needed to play both guys, or were you waiting for somebody to kind of pull ahead in that race at that time?
It's a good question. I always felt, and again, I think coaches say this, but we really believe that. I tell our guys, I don't care if there's 1, 2, or 3 guys out of position. If you're good enough to win with, you'll play. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, quarterback, you only got to pick one. Well, we had 2 guys we felt were good enough to win with, and there wasn't that much of a big separation between the 2 leading up to it in fall camp and all that. So I said, we're going to play both. Now, you can tell, obviously, Pat had a lot of great skills and that he could be really special, but he was a young guy. He was a redshirt freshman. So they both were playing. We're still, evaluating a little bit and all that. But the one thing that was different, which I learned from there, usually our first and second quarterback during camp, we don't have them go live because you want to keep them healthy, right? Mm-hmm. In practice. So, we didn't really have a lot of live practices for Patrick and Adam both during camp because we want to make sure they're healthy for the season. Well, Patrick White when it's live, it's a little different. He runs a little faster. He's hard to catch, and so we probably missed on that a little bit, not realizing just how fast he was when the bullets were live, so to speak, and he kind of showed that from the Louisville game going on. But you're right, they both kind of split, and we knew what the future was going to be, but we felt comfortable we can win with both of them. Mm-hmm. But after the Louisville game, I certainly learned, now this guy is different, and I think everybody could see that, and so we learned from that deal, and obviously Patrick took off from there.
And then again, just a totally different offense early in the season. Coming into the season, you had Jason Colson and Pernell Williams, and then you had a highly recruited Jason Gwaltney at tailback. But little did we know there was a Hall of Famer sitting who wasn't really getting much playing time. But, as things developed, I know there was a couple of issues early in the season with some of the tailbacks, and then Steve Slayton got his opportunity against Virginia Tech. What did you see in a young Steve Slayton that season, and were you just kind of waiting for the opportunity to give him the opportunity to show you what he could do?
Yeah, it was the same thing. He was a true freshman, and so obviously August camp was the first time he got any reps in the system. So that was back then, it was really hard for true freshmen to play at any position because you didn't see them. You didn't have them enroll early in January. They weren't there in the summer for workouts. And even if they were, you weren't allowed to work with them. So they really had to learn, in a couple weeks in August. And it was hard for true freshmen to learn that much that soon. Not just for Steve, but for all the freshmen. But you could gradually see him. He's a sharp guy. You could see him start to learn. Eventually we said, listen, you can see his fastest. We got to give him a shot because he is different. And the same thing like Pat, you put him in there, and it was different. He's a different speed, and he really, once he got playing and got more comfortable and got more reps, and he just kind of took off from there.
The only unfortunate blemish on the season was the Virginia Tech game, and at the time, it was probably the hardest ticket in Morgantown, almost up until that point in history. But that was the game that Steve Slayton kind of had to break out. I know he got some carries against Wofford, but he ended up running for 90 yards and had a nice long 40 yards plus run that game. Was that kind of the day that you guys looked at him and like, all right, we've got a guy here that we can count on?
Yeah, we got a lot more confidence in that. Hey, he can handle the load, and he's got a good grasp now of what we're kind of doing. So yeah, I do remember that now that you said that game was like, he was the one guy in that game. Like, okay, we think we found something there, and then we got faster around it too. The whole offense started to take off because you started having really, really fast guys playing really fast, and they were all young. They were young guys that we're going to keep getting better.
Then moving on to Louisville, at the time, there was a shakeup in the conference. You guys played Virginia Tech the week before. They were on their way out, but you had new teams like Louisville, Cincinnati, things like that coming in. But I remember specifically, and I don't think you went on the record as much as saying it, but you kind of alluded to it, that the Big East Championship still ran through Morgantown, and Louisville was supposedly the new dog, the big dog in the Big East, and they were getting a lot of hype. And what do you remember going into that game and specifically their offense? They had Michael Bush at tailback and Brom quarterback, and they were loaded and gave you guys all you could handle there in Morgantown that day.
Yeah, Bobby Petrino on their staff had done a great job there. And they were a really good football program, had recruited really well, had some NFL guys on their roster, and, kind of came in the league already ready to compete for it. And so, they're all big games, Anthony, but I think that one we knew they were going to be one of the better teams in the league every year. And it turned out that to be the case. So, and they were kind of built like us, had a lot of really good skilled players, kind of tough, hard-nosed type of mentality defensively and all that. So all of our games with Louisville were huge games.
And obviously one of the biggest games in history, right? I mean, you're talking about being down 17 with 8 minutes to go and then the overtime, and it was really kind of a coming of age for the offense and the team, the emergence of Pat White, Steve Slayton. And from that point on, it was off to the races for your offense. You guys were putting up 38, 42, putting up big numbers, 500 yards rushing. But what was it about the Louisville? When did it click? I mean, it clicked late, and you guys got the onside kick. But from that point, that offense was really rolling, especially into the overtime.
Yeah, I think it was just, one was obviously getting experience for all those young guys, Pat and Steve and some other guys around them. But two, I think it was a level of confidence. It's amazing once you get some confidence, especially confidence in a big game against a quality opponent, what it can do for you. What you whether call it belief or confidence, whatever it had. After that game, it did take another step. Like these guys, it didn't change. They didn't get comfortable. They still worked hard in practice, still eager to prove themselves, but they knew it could work, and they knew that they could play at that level, at the highest level. And doing it there with our backs against the wall, being down so much, and coming out with a really big win when it didn't look like it was happening, you could see the confidence of our entire program, not just the offense, but the entire program took a step.
What do you remember about the celebration that night? I know it was mid-season and you didn't want to get ahead of yourself, but what do you remember about how good it felt in the locker room to be able to come back from a game like that?
I always tell everybody there's nothing like a winning locker room. It's such a great thrill if you're part of a football program. But and I don't remember much about the locker room, but I do remember, before walking off the field, looking up, and it was a full moon. And I'm talking about a bright full moon. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is not. It's supposed to happen or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's supposed to be a special night because look at the moon, the crowd. Obviously we got a great crowd, and the excitement that was in amongst the crowd after the game and all that. It was almost as if, I don't want to say the program had arrived, so to speak, because we thought it had arrived earlier than that. But it was like, this has got to be like, I hope everybody's enjoying it as much as I am, as much as we are. You know what I mean? And I think they were. I think it was just a lot of fun to see the way it ended.
And from that point on, obviously, you guys were on a roll. You knock out Pitt in a freezing cold game. It was nasty. Probably was that the coldest? You think probably the coldest game you ever coached in Morgantown?
I think so. I remember wearing. That we were worried that in our field that the rubber pebbles, that you mix in with the turf were going to freeze. And so I thought we might need to cover the field up, and we didn't. And they did wind up having some frozen spots on the field. And I remember wearing the old school, wearing a plastic baggie over your socks to keep it warmer and your feet wouldn't freeze. It didn't work. It was cold. And I remember Pat scored a touchdown down on our sidelines, down in our end zone. I think he slid the last 5 yards or something. And
yep.
He could run off the field, and I'm like, hey Pat, are you okay? And he's like, I'm going to be okay. He was shaking a little bit. So everybody was cold that night, but they toughed it out.
Yeah, it was a freezing cold night in Morgantown. But, again, you knock off Pitt, you roll through UConn, Cincinnati. You guys have to go down to South Florida. You end up being the Big East champions that season. So your reward was to go play Georgia. What do you remember about initially getting that matchup and when they say, hey, you guys are going to the Sugar Bowl and you're going to take on the Georgia Bulldogs of the SEC?
Yeah, I didn't really care who it was. I was just excited that we were going to be in a New Year's, Day bowl game. It was going to be in a big arena. And the fact, I think I remember, the fact it's going to be an SEC school. I mean, that's going to be, to me, I was like, that's great. That's, we're going to be still going to be the underdog, know. And then it got moved because of the hurricane, got moved to almost like a home game for Georgia and Atlanta. So I was like, and that didn't really, I felt bad for obviously, I knew a lot of people down in New Orleans because they had coached down there, but I was like, yay, just another challenge for us. So it was such a young, hungry team that I think we were like, just tell us who we're playing and where we're going to go at and what time to show up, and we'll be there.
I was going to bring that up. When I look at the roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I almost seem to think sometimes maybe they were so young they didn't really know what didn't know what they were getting into, or even to the point where they should have been shocked or intimidated, or it just didn't seem to be the character of that football team.
Yeah, but I think maybe more than that, it was like that's who they were, their whole careers. It was like the bigger the challenge or whatever, whatever obstacle that they had, they were going to be ready to do it. That doesn't mean we played great every game, but, they believed. I mean, they believed in themselves. And they believed in the program. They believed in, in the state and the university. And so that was really neat. It kind of, I thought the culture had kind of started and established a few years before that. Mm-hmm. But this group and that group in particular helped take it even to another higher level and how they approach things.
I've heard you talk about this, but did you feel pretty good in the practice, and what was the mood going into the game? I know you felt like you guys had a pretty good practice down there, but what was the mood of the team going into that ball game?
Yeah, I remember when we first went down there, and then we were originally going to stay in this hotel in downtown Atlanta. It was kind of an atrium type of hotel where it was loud, and there was some kind of other church camp or something staying in there, and it was just like, I thought loud and distracted, and I thought, let's move somewhere quiet. So we moved to a different hotel. It was really quiet. And I can remember the first 3 or 4 practices, our guys were so dialed in. There wasn't like a single missed assignment for 3 days in a row. on either side of the ball. And I'm like, these guys are really tuned in because you want to go to a bowl game, you want to enjoy the experience, but most importantly, you want to play well and you want to practice well in order so you can play well. And these guys were dialed in. I mean, they, you know, it was. I can remember that it was so. I was telling the coaches like these guys are ready to play, and every day they kind of attacked like, what do we need to do? And they learned it, and they came out of the gates like in the game, like they came out of the gates like we thought they would because of the way they practiced.
Well, and you just led right into my next question. I mean, if you could draw up a perfect first quarter, first half, you literally executed it that day. I mean, your offense was clicking, your defense was turning the ball over for you and giving your offense short fields. What do you remember about that first half? And were you kind of even shocked at the way you guys jumped out on Georgia early that day?
Well, a little bit of that. I think the biggest thing, you got to remember, either the night before or 2 nights before, whatever, we took the whole team to watch LSU play Miami or somebody in a bowl game, and an LSU won big, and it was like all talk was about the SEC, and like, here's Georgia, the champs of the SEC, and so that made even the narrative even more so that, hey, there's no way little West Virginia is going to be able to play with Georgia. But it didn't affect our team at all. I mean, our guys were like, hey, coach, this is – and I remember coming out, and I know Stevie broke a big run, and Pat had a couple, and I'm thinking they don't realize how fast our guys are. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had some big speed, but our guys, I think their angles to come tackle our guys weren't the right angles because they underestimated how fast our guys were. And our guys, we had some fast dudes on both sides of the ball. And that, to me, was what the biggest thing that I noticed in the first quarter. I remember talking to our guys on the headset to my coaches upstairs. I said, we're faster than these guys realize. And, you know, for the whole first half, they were chasing us. You know, we couldn't catch us.
In one of my conversations, I talked with Herb Hand a few weeks ago. We had a phone conversation, and he was telling me about Calvin McGee and the way he coached his tailbacks, and specifically Greg Blue, how Greg Blue was more of a like he would try to take shots at you. So he was telling me specifically that he coached the guys to run straight at him and then cut on him. Do you remember him coaching them that way? Because that's that draw that you guys ran early. I mean, as soon as Herb told me that, it just came to my mind that Steve ran straight at him, cut left, and was gone. Do you remember Calvin coaching him that way?
Well, he kind of taught like it was, and that was just not just in that game, but it was in every game. We had an old friend, coach of mine named Homer Smith, had gave me the best description of how guys should run, whether it's quarterback, running back, once they get the ball. He said, you want to teach them to run north and south and react to the danger of being tackled. So many guys want to go east and west or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we want our guys to learn to trust their speed, go north and south. And once there's danger, then you make a move and then continue to go north and south. And Calvin preached that all the time. We did the same thing with our quarterbacks. You know, you notice a lot of times Pat White was the same way. Mm-hmm. You know, when these guys got in the open field, you know, just keep running straight line to the goal line unless you see some danger, and then you make a move and then go on. And that was the game. That's what I said. That's why I think they miscalculated how fast our guys got north and south.
Well, obviously, a hell of a ball game. Just, you know, they start to make a comeback. They make it close, and then let's just kind of get to it. You know, the fake punt earlier in the game. I do remember because you guys ran that wide open, spread out punt formation, almost like a rugby style. And I remember earlier in the game, they did not try to come after you guys. They dropped back. And did that tip you guys off for later in the game? Did that show you guys that the fake punt was available to you? What do you remember about the headsets and going into that?
Yeah, it was, we were one of the first ones. Now everybody uses a form of a spread punt, but we were one of the first ones to use kind of the spread formation punt thing. And we had worked on it all year. We have a certain look that if they're playing man on it and just running with guys down the field, giving you numbers to run it, then a potential fake is there. And so we saw that on film. We saw it early in the game. Hey, they're giving us that look. But I didn't call it. until that point. And at that point, I can remember thinking, oh, it's only a couple minutes left. But, we were struggling to stop them at that point. They had been giving us that look. Why not try to win the game right here, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to make sure we got that look. And so it was a lined-up thing. They looked at the sidelines. We got the look we wanted. We called it. And then I can remember I'm like, okay, once you get a first down, get down. And Phil remembered that. You get the first down and get down, and it worked out.
And the crazy thing about it, if you remember, it's fourth and 6. But when you think about it, he had to go about 20 yards because you dropped back about 14 or 15 to punt it. I mean, was that a long 20 yards or what?
Well, yeah, you better be wide open, right? Phil was a pretty good athlete, but the good part about it is we ran all the guys were running the rest of the guys off. Mm-hmm. So I mean, nobody within 20 yards of them would have to start taking off running. But that was kind of a neat way to end it. I was really proud of the team because they executed. I mean, there's some execution on it. Your guys that are on the punt team, they got to make sure when that's called, they release outside, and if they don't look back, to give any clue that we're going to run the ball, and it kind of worked just the way we wanted it to.
What do you remember about the celebration? That was your first big bowl win. Especially it was the first BCS win at the time. What do you remember about the celebration and the locker room for that one?
Well, I remember, Anthony, for some reason, and I had forgot about this, that normally now they do the celebration on the field, right? But for some reason we were in the locker room and they gave out the handed trophy and all that kind of stuff. And that was such a neat deal. And I also remember thinking that we had great attendance. Our fans were so fantastic. I mean, they were tremendous. But it was also the day after that mining accident. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, I'm hoping just for a few of those, families or something, it gives them a little bit of sense to kind of get their mind off such a tragedy that they had there. And so then I remember going back to the hotel, and there must have been 4,000 people in the lobby. You could hardly get through the lobby. That was really neat for our guys. And then I also remember going to the hospitality room at the hotel. And I think I left the hospitality room at 9:00 in the morning because I had a press conference at 9:30. So the staff had a good time in that hospitality room all night. We had a good time.
Well, you work all season and you win a Big East championship and you win a Sugar Bowl championship. It's well deserved. You should pull an all-nighter when that goes down.
Yeah, we did, and it was. I don't know if anybody in the program slept that night. We were so excited about it.
I know you're busy. I'm going to cut you loose after this, but when you look back at this roster, right, I look at guys, you see guys like Garen Justice and Dan Moses and what he's doing. And then obviously Pat White goes on to win 4 bowl games. Steve Slayton's headed to the Hall of Fame. Jamal Adai's coaching in Buffalo, and then of course Pat McAfee's the biggest voice in sports sports entertainment and sports media.
Yeah, exactly.
What a group of almost characters. I mean, at the time, are you kind of just shocked at what everybody went on to do, or did you see this in all those guys? And Owen Schmidt, obviously, he's still a legend. He's up there with the Mothman and Bigfoot in the state. You know what I mean? So, what do you remember about those guys?
You remember at the time, you're thinking this is a special group of guys, and you can almost predict that, hey, these guys have the type of work ethic, mentality that they're going to be successful no matter what they do. And a lot of them were, which is, to me, fills my heart with such gratitude. The one that was able to be around them, and that, two, that, hey, they left their mark at West Virginia, and, our great fans and our great support, they still talk about them, which to me is really neat. And then for me, the biggest thrill in coaching is that, for me, I know winning and all that, but I hope that everybody that plays for us, if you ask them 20 years after they play, did they enjoy the experience playing there, and would they do it all over again at the same place with the same people? If they said yes, you did your job. And that's the thing I'm probably most proud of. I think if you ask the guys on that team, would you do it all over again at the same place with the same people? I think most of them would say yes. And that to me is the biggest thrill of my coaching.
Be sure to stick around and listen for the Alumni Hall Trivia Question of the Week. For all of your Mountaineers gear, visit alumnihall.com.
As the game gets faster, stronger, more dynamic, your equipment has to keep up. Introducing the Riddell Axiom, the next evolution in football protection, designed to match the speed and strength of today's athlete. Contact West Virginia Riddell representative Casey Turley at 304-552-5960. 304-552-5960. Gear up, play smart, stay protected.
Tony the Tailor is well known for having the best quality suits and jackets available anywhere. But our strength is actually our sophisticated footwear and casual wear. From Brax pants to LBM soft jackets and Hagen shirts, Johnny O sportswear, DiBianco, Allen Edmonds, and Johnston & Murphy shoes, plus much more. We have what you need for work or at play. Tony the Tailor, downtown Charleston, or online at bestmastertailor.com.
Hey Mountaineer fans, this is Charlie Bauman, and you're listening to the Touchdown City Show.
Welcome back to the Touchdown City Show, presented by the Masters Law Firm, West Virginia's injury lawyers since 1974. All right, the text line lit up a little bit yesterday evening. I haven't really, some of them are still black. I haven't got to read them, but if you want to text us during the week, during the games, whenever, the number's 304-729-4465. All right, let's see. Mike Mounts. He says, now that the Pitt win is come and gone, it's back to reality. And reality is, besides the last 6 minutes of the Pitt game, this offense is quite literally the worst I've ever seen. We have no way to move the ball, and it starts up front. Mike, I agree. I think we touched on that in the first segment. The offensive line play has not been beneficial for West Virginia. And, you know, in this system with Rich, if he doesn't have exactly what he needs, it does.
The thing is we talk about it all the time. Like, it's not rocket science. You have to have a good offensive line and a good defensive line to win in these games. That's where the games are always won in the trenches. And if you have the greatest quarterback in the history of the sport and the greatest running back in the history of the sport, if your offensive line stinks, you're still not going to win very much.
Absolutely. This is Tyler in Columbus. The loss was rough, but expected not to be. But I expected not to be very good this season. Rich will get this rolling in the next 2 seasons. Let's scrap this tape and move on to Utah at home. I agree with that, Tyler. I think West Virginia is going to be a better home team.
Most teams are a better home team.
But they've just not shown any signs of life on the road yet.
They've been awful on the road. That's 20 points on the road, 20 in 2 games.
Let's see. This is from 304-2587. Disappointed, yes. O-line play is just bad with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's.
And everybody is saying it's everybody sees this. It's not rocket science. It's football. Everybody sees the issues. They're glaring issues.
Looks here. He says Nico's too slow to run Rich Rod's offense, and Henderson can't throw. We need a leader on offense.
That's fair.
Everybody keeps talking about this Max Brown kid. They're saying that he's supposed to be. Is he still hurt, or what's?
I don't know.
I don't know anything about him.
So it was pointed out to me, even with Scotty Fox, someone brought to my attention that he had gone to wearing a leg brace and thought maybe he got hurt against Robert Morris. Is that what we played the first week? It's been such a long season already. Yeah. So brought that to my attention. And then so Avon and I both text up to someone within the program that seems to be reliable. So easy, and he didn't even get into the game at Kansas. Unless I missed it.
No, he didn't come in. He didn't come in.
Because, again, at the event, it was hard to go back.
Wilkins played after.
Played. So, which makes me wonder, what did we get lied to from our mole, from our insider? Did we get lied to? Did they think that we're going to – I wasn't going to run and just report it and, like some of the other trash social media claim to be journalists, WVU pages and sites, but – I just wanted to know from my own, but I feel like I was lied to because I feel like we would have saw him in the game.
You would think that yesterday would have been a time to put him in and let him grow a little bit more, right? Like let him get some reps and let him get that under his belt, because once you get down like that on the road, and I mean, it's pretty much out of hand, that's when you throw those guys in and let them get a taste of the action and get used to it, and then see how he grows and matures from there. But I was surprised he didn't get in yesterday as well.
Well, and that's why I'm wondering, because they put Wilkins in. So that's why I'm like, wait a minute, they skipped right past Scotty.
Yeah. He's true freshman, right?
Yeah, they're just trying to. I know they're trying
What's
to get
the snaps for redshirt.
It's 4 games.
It's 4 games.
Games. I don't think it's a snaps.
Okay.
But at this point in the way the world is set up in college sports, who cares about a red shirt anymore?
Well, that's true.
Because that
that's
kid's
true.
not guaranteed
You're right.
to be here after this year.
That's a good point. That's a fair point.
Where Rich is already, he doesn't care. But I think at that point with Wilkins, he wanted to get some film on him, and that's the way it sounded in the presser. Rich was very, I think his press conference was like 5 minutes and 38 seconds. So, but he was very short. But he did say, I wanted to put him in and let us get a look at him. Let's see here. Greg from Sun Valley just drops he sends one word and it starts with F.
You're all of us, Greg.
Yeah. Here's Giles from Texas. Are we the new Kansas?
No.
No. I think West Virginia is way better than Oklahoma State. I still think West Virginia is way better than Oklahoma State in that conference. I think Oklahoma State's the new Kansas. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's what I think.
Well, when I think of Kansas football, I think of generations of losing.
Yeah,
and I don't think of Oklahoma State that way.
Well, no, but I mean, like the way they're getting beat.
Yeah,
like is the way Kansas used to get. I mean, West Virginia, you could say, are we the new Kansas? But like they still beat a Pitt team that's Pitt's at least capable.
Yeah, Kansas
would go out there and go 1-11, 0-9 in the Big 12, and wouldn't even come within 50 of anybody.
Yeah. So no, I don't think we're the new Kansas. I think this year is just going to be tough.
It's going to be a rough year, yeah.
Then the final one looks like this one came in this morning at 304, area code 304-3307. The life of being a Mountaineer fan for 40 years. Tough times make tough men and women fans. Just got to take the highs and lows for a few years, and hopefully it'll all be worth it. Yeah, I've been saying that since '88. Or actually before that. That was my first. Year. That was my first game. Actually, there's the picture. November 19th, 1988. West Virginia, Syracuse was my first game. But we appreciate you guys taking the time to text in. That was some of the highlights. We got some that were just people ranting, but I mean, everybody has the right to rant. Yeah, everybody should rant. It's kind of like
it's a good thing.
It's like therapeutic, people, they write it down, they text it, they know somebody read it.
Out. Yeah, you get it out. You get that thought out of your mind. You feel better about it, right?
The good thing about the rant is like at least people care enough to rant.
Yeah, they send it to us and then and yell at instead of yelling at their wife.
Like, the thing is though is like there for a while it just felt like everybody was just kind of like ho hum. I don't care.
Yeah.
And now at least people are ranting and mad and upset. That's a good thing.
Well, I can tell from the download numbers that people care.
Yeah,
because last year I think we've already passed last year's downloads.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we have. We're gonna say the same thing we said last
They would
week.
Listen to us last year and be like, I think that was the same episode from the week before,
the year before, 2 years before.
I think as far as this season goes, the win last week was the one that he had to have, right? You had to beat Pitt. That's your in-state national championship. So you beat Pitt. Everybody's happy. You go on the road to Kansas. You lay an egg. I think this is going to be a team you're going to see flashes of it, but I don't think it's going to be an every week it all comes together thing. I think you've got to let him take his time. Remember his first time through, he was 3-7 first year, turns it around the next year, and we start hitting new heights. And he was hired kind of late as far as the recruiting goes as well. So he didn't have a full amount of time to go out, and everybody says, "Oh, well, you can hit the portal, you can do this, Signetti that. Look at what Arizona State did." I would venture to guess those guys were hired in enough time to hit the portal hard and actively. And Rich came in kind of late, and you're getting the back end of the portal, you're getting what scraps you can get, and then you get the guys from Jacksonville State, which Cam Vaughn's been really, really good. It's just we don't necessarily have a way to get him the ball all the time now.
Yeah. Listen, I know the second trip through, the recruiting will get better.
Well, my thing is, though, is like we're talking about with Signetti. Like, if people want to throw his name out, and don't get me wrong, I think the world of Kirk Signetti. He's doing outstanding. That doesn't need to be said. But like he took a lot of players from James Madison, which was very good at their at that Sun Belt level, whatever conference they're in. They were very good. They were a very good team. He took a lot of those guys with him that knew what he wanted to do, that knew how to play and everything. And then at Indiana, he walked into a situation where the schedule wasn't daunting. Now, I don't think this schedule's daunting for West Virginia, but like their first 3 games were against very, very weak competition. It was like 3 Robert Morrises. And they kind of built a little bit of confidence, and then they got into the Big Ten play, and some of those Big Ten teams weren't great. And he did an outstanding job. I'm not taking anything away from Cignetti, but it's a different situation. Now, having said that, that's where we're West Virginia. Like, you got to look at it. How long does it take a coach, in the current situation, the current landscape? How long should we give a coach to get things righted? West Virginia is very down. You can see it. It's obvious. But with the way the transfer portal works and everything, you can build a team in an offseason. It can happen. So that's the thing. He's got to hit his guys in the transfer portal this offseason to build a team for next year. And it can happen. We'll just see if it does.
I think just me speaking for me, I have full and complete confidence that he will hit the portal hard and do what he needs to do recruiting, because I think this eats him up as well. You know what I mean? Like I think this eats him up as well. Like, whereas with the last guy, I don't think he ever really got it. I don't think it ate him up. It was just another game. As long as we can win enough to get bowl eligible, we're good. I don't think bowl eligible is what Rich is looking for, and that's not what his expectation is. I think his expectation is to consistently be in the top 25 week in and week out, and be a team that's constantly competing for a Big 12 championship. And I think he'll get it there. I think most people who are going to be mad at it this year are people who don't like him anyway.
Right, which I don't pay attention to any of those people.
Yeah, and like that's what in my mind, seeing what happened last night, it just reassures that it makes those people feel better about it.
Yeah, let them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say they're rooting against us, but I don't think that they're unhappy to see him failing. And, like I said, I had a couple people, the first Robert Morris game at halftime telling me how they wanted him to do bad and they wanted him to feel
I don't
pain.
know why you associate yourself with those type of people.
And I don't know why you'd want that. You're spending money to come up here and you're telling me you're sitting in the stands actively hoping that he loses and he has a rough year. Like, come on now.
See, I mean, the thing is, though, is West Virginia's got 88 new players. You have 88 new players. I don't know how many.
82.
Oh, sorry, 82. I don't know how many players on the roster graduate. I don't know how many things. I mean, and you're going to have they're going to be guys enter the portal. There's going to be all this stuff going on. You could have a completely new team again next year, which is not the way, in my opinion, that success is built. But he's got the whole key. He has got to hit a nice blend on recruits and portal additions to get this righted quickly. Now, I don't care how fast he does it. I just want it righted. Just get the ship righted. Get us back to where, you come to West Virginia and say, hey, those guys are tough. That's a tough team that we're playing out there. Because it used to be, it used to mean something when you played at WVU. If you came into WVU and got a win, it's a tough place to play. The TCU team that in 2014, Baylor lost in Morgantown. They had one loss. That was the only loss Baylor had. TCU came up there. I believe the final score was 31-30. TCU was good enough to win a national championship that year. Mm-hmm. Morgantown used to be a tough place to play. I just want somebody, and I don't care who it is. I don't care who the coach is. I want West Virginia to win. I just want somebody to right the ship to get West Virginia back to playing West Virginia football and to be in like a physical team that works hard, that plays hard, and to know you've been in a game. Even if West Virginia loses, just play hard and play well.
I knew we were in trouble when I ran into him in February. We were at the fish fry, Huggins' fish fry, and he came in and we were kind of hanging out off to the side. And I was like, well, what's up, coach? And he just looked at me and said, I think I'm about to flip this whole roster.
That's troubling.
And he said, I've been watching tape, and he had watched like the Texas Tech game from last year. And when he said that, I was like, oh boy. So we go into the spring game. Now, remember, a bunch of guys portaled out. He had to replace the whole offensive line in the portal. When you're doing that after the spring game, you've got problems. So this is not what I was hoping for, and I was hoping it would be a little bit better. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's not like something I'm shocked by because of the conversations I've had. So,
yeah, and I mean, like he said, you look at it, you got 82 new guys. You're going to have some growing pains.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
as you just pointed out, most of them are coming in after the spring game, so they're not getting the spring practice. All you're getting is the July-August practice leading into the season. And, it takes a while to get things right, man. You just got to be patient with it, have time, have faith that he's the guy that's going to go in and do what he needs to do. And I have full confidence in him flipping this around. And as far as with you saying it used to be special to play somewhere, well, that's everywhere, right? Everybody's looking to now go get paid. And
No.
It used to be hard to play
It
in
used to be
Morgantown.
difficult to come to Morgantown
but
for an opposing team to win, is what I'm saying.
But
I'm
you
not saying
also
it's not
said that
special.
You're looking at year in and year out. You're looking at a whole new team.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Well, that's basically everywhere except, with the exception of a few schools that are Ohio States, your Texases, your LSUs, and things like that. Most schools are dealing with this.
Not at the level we have it this year.
No.
Like if you bring in 30 new guys, that's probably going to be 50 over what we have currently.
Right.
So, all right, let's move on. The Big 12 scores from this weekend. UCF knocked off Belichick and company, 34-9. So Bill's having a rough time in Chapel Hill, although his girlfriend seems to be the one making all the headlines week after week.
Hey, Scott Frost is 3-0 at Central Florida.
Yeah,
That dude, I don't know what it is. And they were supposed to be horrible. I haven't seen them. I have no clue what they look like. But who cares? They're 3-0.
Arizona State over Baylor, 27-24. Anybody watch that one?
I watched some of this. I don't know if you guys did. Did you?
I was Ole Miss, South Carolina was on where I was at.
This was one of the best games of the day. That game was phenomenal. It kind of went back and forth. Arizona State took a 24-17 lead with around 3 or 4 minutes left. Baylor answered back with a touchdown and kicked the extra point, and then Arizona State got back down the field and kicked a field goal late in the game and won. It was a fantastic ball game. I think Baylor's pretty good, but they've played a harder schedule. I mean, they've already played Arizona State. They've played SMU, and they've played Auburn. That's a tough schedule early in the season. And, of course, Arizona State, we know about them. They're pretty good, too.
Colorado over Wyoming, 37-20. Dion and the gang getting it done out there. TCU over SMU, 35-24. They've got multiple losses now.
SMU is 0-2 against the Big 12.
Yeah.
But let me say something. TCU's pretty good.
Yeah. BYU over East Carolina. Let's see here. So we had the number 16 and number 17 teams going up against each other. Texas Tech handled Utah 34-10 on the road. So that's going to be a tough weekend after Thanksgiving.
Texas Tech, they lost their starting quarterback in this game too. I don't know if he went out with a concussion. I never saw, but they lost their starting quarterback in this ball game. That game, it felt like Texas Tech was dominating, but it was 13-10. They ended up pulling away late. Their backup quarterback came in, and I thought he looked pretty solid too. They're pretty good. I think that's a good team. They're going to be a team that you're going to be talking about here, I feel like, in the Big 12 with a shot to win it. Huge road win for them. It's tough to go into Utah and win. So, unfortunately for West Virginia, they're going to get an angry Utah team next weekend. But Texas Tech, I like what I see from them early on.
You think? How much that roster cost?
That's what. But see, you were talking about all the new players and everything, and you're talking about that's a team that brought in basically an entire new roster, and here they are at 4-0 and with a very impressive road win.
Other games from around the country: Miami knocks off the Florida Gators 26-7. The U seems to be back, although and I'm just looking at the stats. I didn't see in this game, but Lagway only completed 12 passes for 61 yards.
Man, Florida stinks. They stink on offense. It felt like Miami was they got a 13-0 lead, and it seriously felt like they just kept running the ball because they knew Florida couldn't score more than 13 points. It was embarrassing. Like, that coach at Florida is probably going to get fired, rightfully so. But, like, the Lagway kid comes in as a 5-star recruit. He throws 5 interceptions in a game, and then you get what? They got 10 against LSU, 7 against
Is he a freshman?
No, I think he's a sophomore, junior now.
He was there last year.
Yeah, I know he was at least a sophomore.
He came in to a game last year for him and won, and then they all wanted him
to play and move forward, which is fine. I mean, he was highly recruited and everything, but, man, he has just been bad. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know what it is. That's a bad football team right now, though.
You mentioned them earlier. Indiana, they rolled Illinois 63-10. Illinois, I think, weren't they in the top 10?
Illinois was 9.
Yeah, I mean that's a bad loss.
Bad loss. I don't even know what you call that. That's embarrassing. I think that's the most points a Big Ten team's ever put on a top 10 team.
Michigan and Nebraska, the final score 30-27. The Wolverines victorious over Nebraska. But I did go back and look at some of the stuff and I think did I bring it up last week? Did I mention Holgerson last week?
I don't recall if you did or didn't, but he's their OC.
He's their OC, yeah. And they've been scoring. I mean, they only put up 27 on Michigan, but and of course they were playing lesser opponents. But anytime a Big Ten team puts up 60 or 48 or 50, that's saying something. But Holgerson's not one known to really just run the ball 48 times either. So, but I think Michigan, I think Nebraska is one of those teams that will. I think they're going to be pretty good this year. I mean, I know they lost to Michigan, but I think Nebraska should be okay moving forward.
Well, they got that mini Mahomes at quarterback. That kid, I mean, he can fling it. They can put points up for sure. That's Dana's thing. I think he's a much better OC than a head coach. But that quarterback's pretty solid. He's very annoying because of how he tries to be Patrick Mahomes, but he can play. He can play football.
I want to mention the West Virginia volleyball team. They're off to 12-0. It's the best start in program history.
Fantastic.
So I want to point this out, though, and it's about coaching. So Jen Greeny is their second year. 2 years ago, and then under the previous coach, this was pretty much the status quo. They were 9-23 and 2-16 in conference play. They kind of repeated that last year, right? Same type of basically the same record. But what this coach was able to come in and do was establish her culture and her recruiting. She came from Washington, and I remember when she was hired, this was a hire that, if you kind of follow all sports at WVU, that was talked about as being a Ren Baker, home run. Like, people are saying, guys, check this out. This is a huge hire for them. She's a Northwest gal, and left Washington, who she had led to the NCAA's 8 straight times, and came to West Virginia, and now has the team off to a 12-0 start. So if you're just a WVU sports person, I know there's some people that are just football people or whatever, but if you pay attention to all the sports, the volleyball team is off to a great start. So congratulations to them. Hopefully they can go out there and win a Big 12 championship. All right, so before we get into the predictions, and we've gotten really long in this segment, so I'm just going to mention that the 2000 team, Coach Nealon's last football team, with the win over Ole Miss in the Music City Bowl, they're going to be coming back this weekend as West Virginia takes on Utah and Morgantown. They're breaking out the 65 uniforms. So I was hoping they'd do that later in the season so I could wear my hoodie. So it looks like I might have to pull out my golf shirt again. But that's all right. Looking forward to getting back and seeing. I was actually, before you guys came in, talking to KJ from the Varsity Club, just seeing who was coming. And a lot of guys I know and friends with. I'm excited to see those guys. And so Avon will have to ask for his 48 tickets.
48 tickets and a golf cart ride right to the entrance.
He's on vacation, folks. He's out on assignment. All right, West Virginia, Utah. Utah coming off of a loss. Utah's a good football team, but I'll be curious to see, before I give my prediction, I'll be curious to see if West Virginia can snap back and be a better home football team than they've been on the road. I don't know what to expect. I do know that Utah's not going to be happy rolling in here, but Derek, I'll pass the mic.
I mean, that's the thing. I have no idea what to expect out of WVU. I have no idea. The offensive line against Pitt, it played well at times. Against Ohio U, it was awful at times. It was awful against Kansas. I have no clue. Here's what I thought I saw from Utah yesterday. Defensively, Utah's pretty solid. They have a pretty good defense, so I think it's going to be a long day for the West Virginia offense anyways. However, I think West Virginia's defense can keep Utah in check. I don't think West Virginia's going to do enough to win the game, but I can see like a low-scoring type game. I'm going to take Utah, and I'm going to take Utah 23, West Virginia 14.
Did you pick Kansas last week?
No, I picked West Virginia, unfortunately. I'm 1-2 out of the gate, or 1-3, whatever it is.
You didn't. You took Pitt.
I took Pitt, and I took West Virginia against Robert Morris. I took West Virginia against Ohio. Yeah, I'm 1-3 out of the gate.
If we can get Ty Edwards. If Ty Edwards plays this week against Utah, I think that's a huge, huge boost for us, because when you have that option in the backfield and you have a guy running, getting 4 or 5 yards of pop like he is, then you can't just completely sell out on we're going to throw the ball, right? So if Ty Edwards plays, people are going to think I'm crazy and I'm dumb. I'm taking West Virginia to beat Utah. If Ty Edwards doesn't play, Utah's probably going to smoke our boots.
I don't know if Ty Edwards is going to make a difference in this game. I think if he shows up, I think obviously the West Virginia offense will have another dimension and they can do some things that they want to do. But I just think that West Virginia is going to be outmatched against Utah. Utah's a very good football team. And the things I think will keep West Virginia in this is, one, being at home. Two, you got basically a West Coast team coming to the East Coast. Although I would have loved for this game to have been at noon.
I wanted a noon start.
The 3:30 start helps them out a little bit, and it gets me home a little later. So I would have loved for this to be a noon game, considering what my schedule's been like for the last 6 weeks. But I'm gonna take Utah on this. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
I've never been more happy to be wrong when they win.
And I hope Durrett's in here dancing around going, "I told you, idiots, that they were going to win," but I just don't see it right now.
You want me to give a prediction as if I'm Avon?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you right
now. Give
Avon's
prediction.
Nico's not the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Nico ain't the guy. He's getting paid. He still hasn't shown me anything. Nico's not the guy. So I don't know what we're going to do as long as we keep continuing to run him out there. Nico's not the guy. He hasn't shown me anything. I would like to take West Virginia in this, but as long as we keep playing Nico, who's not the guy, but he's getting paid, we're going to lose to Utah. And it's going to be a good day up there, because we're going to see a lot of people we know. And my kids down there on the field with me, my babies is going to be with me, and then it's going to be a good day. But Nico ain't the guy, and he's getting paid, but he still hadn't shown me anything.
All right, well, there you've heard it from Avon. He mailed that one in. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Touchdown City Show this week. And don't forget, if you want to hear the radio show, head over to touchdowncity.com. Check out the radio stations around the great state of West Virginia that carry us. All the times and dates are there. But for the guys, I'm Anthony Lewis. Thanks for listening. Oh, wait. Did we do the Alumni Hall Trivia Question of the Week?
You didn't.
Fooled them. Here it comes.
I thought it might have been in the second segment.
Oh, man. My notes are all off here. Okay, here we go. Alumni Hall Trivia Question of the Week, 304-729-4465. West Virginia and Utah have played 2 times in series history. The last time was in 2017. Which bowl game was that? The number 304-729-4465. West Virginia. When was in 2017, West Virginia and Utah played in a bowl game. What was the bowl? All right. For those of you that are hung on to the very end, you get the opportunity to win a $25 gift card to Alumni Hall. They have great locations in Charleston and Morgantown. Make sure you go in and see them. Pick up your gear for the 65 throwback game. They got some really nice stuff. But for the guys, now we're really out of here. Thanks for listening.